Today we'll be discussing the recent UN Climate Summit that took place on Monday.
Followed by Hollywood news, including highlights from Sunday's Primetime Emmy Awards.
And finally, we're bringing you the latest CSUF and local news. All this and more on today's episode of The Report.
Hello and welcome to The Report, Cal State Fullerton's premier source for news, views, and info. I'm Ryan Matthey.
I'm Bree Eastlick.
And I'm Jefferson Denham. Now, before we get started with our first hot topic, we'd like to invite you to be a part of the discussion. Click on the link in the description of any of our Report episodes to fill out a secure Google form with your opinion on any controversial issue that we've talked about now or in the past. As many of these issues are recurring and evolving, we also have a Twitter account. Follow @The Report CSUF to check out our polls, questions, and news updates.
Teenage climate activist Greta Thunberg spoke at the United Nations General Assembly on Monday, advocating for world powers to lead the fight to stop climate change. The 16-year-old Swedish activist gave an emotional speech at the summit, scolding world leaders and accusing them of being complicit in the growth of global warming.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones. People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
Thunberg did not act alone, however, as 15 other children also filed a complaint with the UN, accusing 5 major world economies, including Germany, France, Brazil, Argentina, and Turkey. This complaint alleges that these countries have violated their human rights under the Convention of the Rights of Children Treaty by not taking swift and adequate action to fight global warming. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres broke tradition by asking world leaders not to come to the podium without, quote, concrete and transformative plans, end quote, to halt rising temperatures and growing carbon emissions. President Donald Trump, who was not expected to appear at the climate summit, attended as a surprise audience member. This is sad and crazy that we have to throw children to these grown adults to take action in some sort of way for something that's not only affecting their future, but more importantly, it's affecting, people like Thunberg's future, who they're, 16 years old?
Right.
And at the beginning of her speech, she even said too, I shouldn't have to be here. I should be across the seas right now doing school, living a normal 16-year-old life. How sad is it that we've resulted to this now? We now have to have, and also how sad for Ms. Thunberg as well, that she's getting all this criticism on the media for being either brainwashed or being crazy or emotionally unstable, when it's just she's passionate about her future and she wants to not live in a world where there's people growing with tentacles and tails out of their wherever.
And the good news is that she's not alone. I mean, one of the sponsors of the march, of the march, not only here in New York City in America, but around the world, they have a guesstimate. So it's not, if somebody's watching and can correct me on this, great. A guesstimate of 4 million people, more than 4 million people worldwide. 40,000 people striking in France, 2,600 in Ukraine, 100,000 in London. So she is speaking, she's giving voice to something that we all think, but I'm not surprised that there's pushback, because the moneyed interests in this country are going to do everything they can to keep things the way they are. It's working fine for them. But to turn a blind eye, just to say what you said, to turn a blind eye to the science, to see what's going on in the oceans are heating up. And there was just a study done recently by the UN again about that. To deny all that science and make it political is just, it's ridiculous. I don't get it.
Well, the thing is that a lot of these people also, they're being so rude to these children. They are mocking them. Laura Ingraham, she literally called Greta one of the children of the corn. You know what I mean? Like, they aren't being respectful. They're being rude to these children. And, all they're trying to do is stand up for what they believe in.
Right.
But because it's against what they have to say, it's wrong. So.
Well, I think the political ramification, why did being an environmentalist become a political football? I have a theory on this, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like when Al Gore had An Inconvenient Truth, that film, An Inconvenient Truth, and he brought to light all of these environmental issues, people on the right thought, oh, well, this is democratic issues, so we're going to dig in our heels and fight against it. But and a lot of people of faith seem to think that it's a myth too.
I don't think that it was right for Trump to come in. He knew what he was going to do when he got there. You know what I mean? He didn't want to show up to actually listen to what they had to say. He wanted to make a statement, and I think it was very rude of him to do that. But
don't show up if you don't care, man.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, we're going to move on now to television's premiere awards show. Took place at the Microsoft Theater on Sunday night. The 71st Annual Primetime Emmy Awards, which aired on Fox without a host, celebrated both newer and since-ended television shows, taking home the trophies such as Ozark's Jason Bateman winning Best Director, and Fleabag's Phoebe Waller-Bridge winning her first Emmy Awards for writing and lead actress in a comedy series. Cultural phenomenon Game of Thrones won the coveted Outstanding Drama Series Award for their final season. For more on the winners and highlights, we turn to CNN reporter David Daniel.
I find writing really, really hard and really painful.
Nevertheless, Fleabag creator and star Phoebe Waller-Bridge won her first Emmy for writing, then another for lead actress in a comedy series.
I find acting really hard and really painful.
And then returned to the stage when Fleabag won Outstanding Comedy Series.
But this is just getting ridiculous.
First-time winners in the drama category included Ozark's Julia Garner for supporting actress and Jason Bateman for directing, Jodie Comer, lead actress for Killing Eve, and Billy Porter, lead actor for Pose.
We as artists are the people that get to change the molecular structure of the hearts and minds of the people who live on this planet.
In the limited series or movie category, Michelle Williams won her first Emmy, lead actress for Fosse Verdon, and Jarrell Jerome received a standing ovation as he accepted the lead actor trophy for When They See Us.
This is for the men that we know as the Exonerated Five.
Standing ovations also went to two shows that said goodbye, Game of Thrones and Veep.
I was told I would be up here alone.
No Emmys for Veep Sunday night, but Game of Thrones won a pair. Peter Dinklage won his fourth supporting actor trophy.
We literally walked through fire and ice for you, literally. And I would do it all again in a heartbeat.
And for the fourth and final time, the show was named Outstanding Drama Series.
I can't believe we finished it. I can't believe we did it. We did it all together, and it's over.
In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
Heads up, Titans. More changes could be coming to our campus. According to the Daily Titan, new plans for on-campus housing expansion have been in the works for 2 years now, with decisions being determined by spring of 2020, just a couple months from now. Last spring, it was rumored that the Arboretum would be leveled for more student housing. This generated a petition of over 30,000 signatures opposing this idea. However, the Daily Titan reported that Vice President of Administration and Finance, Danny Kim, dispelled these rumors, stating that there were never any plans to clear the Arboretum. The actual plans propose new student housing buildings and central event center, a new sky bridge connecting Nutwood Avenue and College Park, as well as more coffee stands and charging stations. If the plans are approved, the Health Science Building, the Titan Bookstore, and some visual arts buildings could face demolition. I read that story in the Titan. I actually read a story from last April, too, talking about how they had a big display and talked about how they wanted the public's input on it. I'm not sure that's exactly what's happening. It's hard to know because it seems like they are listening, but are they taking these things into account as they design? Is a bridge, which is probably a good idea, is a bridge really on the top of the heap? Is that what money should be spent on right away, you know?
No, I mean, okay, so yes, I think like the dorms, I get it. I understand why they want to make it less of a commuter school, that's fine. But the thing is that most of these kids, once they hit their junior or senior year, I'm a junior myself, I don't want to live on campus, and I know a lot of juniors and seniors who don't want to live on campus either. So mainly these dorms are being built for the freshmen and maybe sophomores. So I don't see why.
And some faculty, I think.
Oh, right, yeah, the faculty. But how do we know the faculty even want to live on this campus?
Do they want to be here more?
No.
Maybe here more than they already are.
Maybe not.
Is there a serious need for this? Is there a serious need for more housing in general? Because obviously, yes, we are, I believe, one of the most crowded CSU campuses out of all the CSUs. But is it necessary? Because again, we are kind of known as this giant commuter school. Why not embrace it? They've kind of taken into account, our issues, because as tale as old as time, parking sucks here, surprise. And they're kind of working on that with that whole new parking structure that they're adding on. But even then, that's not going to help with everything. And they've done other things such as, parking at the church offsite and then taking the shuttle over. They've come up with alternatives, but they're not the alternatives that we want.
No, I honestly, I saw in the Daily Titan that we are literally pushing back the funds for the library. You know what I mean? In 2013, I believe, the earthquake destroyed the top levels of the library, and it's still not fixed.
Right.
They are running out of room. They don't have anywhere to put their documents, their rare artifacts, or anything. Why aren't we putting our money towards something like that goes towards the academics of the school?
Well, I believe there's going to be more forums where people can voice their opinions, and I hope our viewers will join in those forums and make sure that their opinions are heard. I know that a lot of our buildings were built like post-1960s. I mean, there's some upkeep that needs to happen. That's indisputable. But allocating exactly how to spend this money, that's going to be a challenge. And I think there's always going to be pushback, certainly, but these are issues, hopefully, that they're taking into consideration.
Yeah, also, I mean, in the parking structures, like, with things that have gone on with like theft and everything and the rape that even happened, we should put some cameras in there, maybe more. I don't know if there are right now, but if not, we need more in there. We need some kind of security. I came from a school where we had security all the time, so maybe we need to look into that.
Yeah, you had mentioned that there's guards like 24/7 in these parking structures.
Yeah, moral of the story is we have other things that we need.
Yes.
I'll say Fullerton.
Yeah.
It's not a bridge.
No. Now, moving on, earlier this week, Walt Disney Studios decided to let it go by dropping a new trailer for Frozen 2. The sequel brings back Elsa, Anna, Kristoff, and Olaf as they set out to discover the origin of Elsa's frozen powers, as the kingdom of Arendelle has been taken over by evil forces. This highly anticipated sequel features a tonal shift to a more action-packed film rather than the 2013 original, which brought in more than $1.27 billion at the global box office. Frozen 2 hits theaters November 22nd. If you haven't seen the newest trailer, you can catch a glimpse right here.
Find who is calling to you. They may have answers.
I'm going with you. Anna? No. Excuse me, I climbed the North Mountain, survived a frozen heart, and saved you from my ex-boyfriend, so, I'm coming.
That's normal. Where are we?
How did you get in the forest?
The mist parted for us.
Impossible.
Where did you learn magic?
Elsa, get out of there! You can't just follow me into fire. Then don't run into fire.
Magic is very alluring. Without you, she may lose herself to it.
Protect Arendelle at all costs.
I believe in you, Elsa, more than anyone or anything.
Quick question. Is the whole putting us in mortal danger gonna be a regular thing?
Bree can't wait. I say, Bree, let it go. A new study suggests that it's possible that not all screen time is inherently bad for children's academic performances, according to a JAMA pediatric study that was published last Monday. The updated review of 58 studies from 23 countries found that only the time spent watching television and playing video games negatively impacted a child's studies. Researchers studied screen time against academic performance across more than 100,000 children aged 4 to 18. This meta-analysis found that overall, screen usage has no association with a child's academic achievements at school. However, when each type of screen time, such as playing on mobile phones or surfing the internet, was broken down, They found that kids and teens who spent more time watching TV and playing video games did suffer academically. The American Academy of Pediatrics, or AAP, has published recommendations on suggested amounts of screen time that vary based on a child's age and stage of development. With all that information, do you still miss your favorite after-school specials from your childhood? Well, the thing that I was talking to you guys about a little bit earlier was that the headline of this story is a little bit misleading. It seems to indicate that, oh, your screen time isn't so bad, and maybe we've overthought it. But what they're not saying, or one item that they didn't say, was that this study, yes, 100,000 people, that sounds pretty extensive. However, this study reaches back all the way to the early 80s, when screen time was not exactly the way it is in 2019. So a lot of this data needs to be thought through, and before you can come to any conclusions, like it doesn't really impact overall. I think in reading the entire article, it does talk about how there are recommendations that we need to take into account, especially for children, say 1. I've got relatives who have children, and their babysitter is, here's a screen. Push some buttons, move this around.
Well, yeah, I went to the Angels game last night, and literally just a row in front of me, there was these kids, and instead of watching the game, they were just looking at their iPads the whole time. And it's like, what is the point anymore? I don't get it.
Where is there a limit where
Yes.
it's like, let's actually start communicating with these children, let's interact with them a little bit more than kind of just plopping this iPhone or whatever in front of them. I totally get that, and that's like a totally parenting technique that I'm not going to comment on because I'm not a parent at the moment, but it's still, there's obviously a lot of problems that have come with us putting like the youth, I would say, in the internet. So we obviously have like cyberbullying, we have this disinterest in a lot of activities that aren't, internet kind of mobile related, but that reflects more, I feel like, again, on whoever is raising these children to say, like, this is how I'm going to raise you, and if I don't want you to, fall short in your studies or whatever, because I think it's contributed by you playing video games all the time, then we'll cut it, we'll limit it, we'll go by these recommendations as this report is saying, but it's also just seeing what you think is best for your child.
And Ryan, to your point, I mean, these studies, or this big study is from, say 4 to 17, but we know, as you rightly pointed out, that social media and the screen time that we spend impacts us as college students, right? And so we've seen study after study talking about overdoing it on social media. There's a direct correlation to depression and antisocial behavior. So this article does recommend, and the study does recommend, get out there, exercise, just limit your screen time. Don't just, if you can, find, they're not saying it's bad, overdoing it is bad.
Yes.
Then didn't you say that there was a...
So honestly, I think that everyone should limit their screen time nowadays to actually get out there and do something. And you can do that. You can go on your phone, go in the settings, and you can set a time where it'll send you a notification saying, this is it, like that is your limit for the day. You can choose to ignore that if you want, but I feel like it'll make you feel a little more guilty or something if you say, oh no, I want to keep going on my phone. I personally have it on my phone. After 2 hours, a day, then it's like you've reached your limit.
Do you obey it?
Sometimes I do. Sometimes
you're an honest person.
I want to be
You're an honest person.
I saw it once on my phone. I was like, oh my God, why am I like this? Oh, there's too many hours that I'm
Yeah,
so there's options to you, man. But anyways, turning now to some other news. Following the rape case that was reported earlier this month, the CSUF Police Department has responded by offering rape aggression defense system classes for free. Typically, the 3-session class is offered for $25 per person, and this instructional class is offered to any and all women in the community who would like to learn the basics of how to defend oneself from an attacker. The classes kicked off last weekend as women were trained on how to properly stand and strike an attacker. In future lessons, they will get experience in using force against a padded trainer. CSUF is working on adding more classes due to the high demand of interest in the class. The next session will be held these upcoming 2 Sundays, and for more information about how to sign up for these classes, visit police.fullerton.edu. Obviously, fantastic that I think that they're doing this. It needs to be done. The fact that it's free, even more fantastic. What I will say, though, is limiting it just to women might be a little bit of like, but I get both sides to it, where it's like, well, now if we're, generally men are the people who are attacking in these instances, and they don't like the idea of, including these men so they know exactly what they're doing. But there are men who are attacked and are getting the same sort of kind of abuse. So I agree, there should be a little more open, but I think it's fantastic that we're having it.
Yeah, I mean, why are we assuming that men just know how to fight? I just don't.
Let me tell you, I don't.
Why are we assuming that? Yeah. But anyway, will you be home for the holidays? If you haven't purchased your plane tickets yet, the time to act is now. According to AAA, the ideal time to buy air travel for Thanksgiving and Christmas began this past Wednesday, September 25th. If you haven't jumped on those deals yet, don't worry, Titans. You have until Halloween for most of the good deals to last. However, flights will start filling up quickly as thrifty travelers rush to reserve their seats. Not every airline in flight is guaranteed to be a steal. However, being flexible with dates as well as comparing prices of nearby airports can help a ton. Flying either the Monday prior or on Thanksgiving Day can help. And flights on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day are traditionally the cheapest and least busy as well. AAA also suggests that travelers be wary of hidden fees such as checked bags and other perks when booking their flights. Happy and safe travels, Titans.
And with that, that's all the time we have today on The Report. Have a great week, everyone, and stay tuned for more news, views, and information. We'll see you next time. I'm Jefferson Denham.
I'm Ryan Matthey.
And I'm Bree Eastlick. Stay fresh, Fullerton.